Hello, angels and fellow Jocelyn stans. We have so many shocking moments to discuss from episode 2 of The Idol, from Jocelyn's disastrous music video shoot, to Dyanne's possible betrayal, to the reveal of Tedros' music cult. Stay tuned, subscribe to join the club, and fair warning, spoilers ahead. Let's dive in. This week's episode explores a truly difficult question all artists have faced one time or another. How can you succeed when you're the one in your own way? Jocelyn, having been unhappy with the direction her music has been going, calls an emergency meeting with her team to debut the remix of her song, World Class Sinner, that she made with Tedros. The overtly sexual tone and breathier vocals fail to impress, which lead to a devastating moment between Nikki and Jocelyn. The stakes are laid out for us by Nikki, who goes on to remind Jocelyn that they trusted her when she said she could handle a world tour after her mother passed away. But when it came down to the wire, Jocelyn had a mental breakdown right before she was set to perform at Madison Square Garden. This was a difficult scene to stomach because it becomes crystal clear that the record label sees her as a product and commodity rather than an artist with autonomy and PTSD. At the end of the day, Jocelyn's erratic behavior is costing them millions of dollars that they want a return on, so there can't be any mistakes in her comeback. At this point, Jocelyn is conflicted about following her creative instincts versus trusting the business decisions of those who don't support her vision, which I'll break down later in the video, so stay tuned. Later in the episode, Jocelyn arrives 3 hours late to her music video shoot due to the makeup artist having to cover up self-inflicted wounds on her inner thighs. This gives us insight into Jocelyn's psychological and emotional state, which highlight her turning towards self-destructive coping mechanisms as a way to deal with her anxiety and unprocessed trauma. Once the word begins to travel on set, we see a desperate struggle between Jocelyn's declining mental state and quest for perfection versus the record label's disappointment with their product not performing as intended. I think it is crucial to note that Jocelyn does not feel connected to this version of her song, and her self-deprecating point of view becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy for her own self-sabotage. We eventually get the straw that breaks the camel's back when Jocelyn performs an inspired take of her dance number, but the camera loses focus midway through. I mean, my jaw was on the floor when she did this take, and you could tell that she finally reached the level of perfection she was desperate to achieve. However, none of the footage is usable, and my heart fell to my stomach the moment they delivered the news to her. It becomes even more painful to watch when Jocelyn experiences a break from reality and calls for her mother, who was always there on set with Jocelyn before she passed. This immediately alarms everyone on set, and Nikki urges her to call it a day and go home. This leaves us with an important question to consider. What happens to a pop idol that can't perform as needed? You may think this was a human and empathetic move from the record label executive, but remember, she has already been working behind the scenes to create a new Jocelyn. We get a shocking turn of events when Dyanne has been tapped by Nikki to quickly record music, and she accepts the offer to create a demo for her potential debut as a new artist. From the first episode, Dyanne has been a standout when performing, and even Jocelyn notes that she wishes she could dance like her. I have to say I was conflicted because as a BLACKPINK fan, I was eager for Jennie to have her moment in the show, but I was heartbroken over what this could mean for Jocelyn's story arc. A few scenes later, a theory I had called out in my previous video comes true. It's revealed that Dyanne has been working with Tedros to lure Jocelyn into his cult, but what are her true motives? She seems to think Tedros only wanted Jocelyn to boost the popularity of his club, but she seems upset that he's now making music with her. Are they swapping places? I guess we'll have to wait and see. We then get an ominous statement from Tedros, saying that he may finally get what he's owed from Dyanne once she is signed with Jocelyn's record label. It's unclear what exactly he's owed, but I am assuming he gave her an advance of some sort to secure her place in the industry. But this leads to an even bigger point of interest. Dyanne represents how the music industry is constantly looking to fill the shoes of anyone who isn't able to perform well. They don't care about the human behind the brand. There is always going to be someone younger, more talented, and willing to do the work another person isn't willing to do. And it was made evidently clear that Nikki doesn't see Jocelyn as anything more than a product of the industry. Now that Jocelyn is becoming more and more unreliable to those that have money riding on her, where does she go from here? The alternative to working with a bigger company isn't all that great either, especially when you're on a downward spiral. Tedros seems to push his cult members to the limit, and he employs classic manipulation tactics such as pulling away from Jocelyn once she's had a taste in order to garner their undying loyalty and submission. This leads to a drug and sex-fueled party at Jocelyn's house, and joining them are the key members of Tedros' cult, Isaac, Chloe, and Jenna. His master plan unfolds as Isaac isolates and distracts Leia. Chloe and Jenna get familiar with Jocelyn's belongings, and Tedros charms Jocelyn by supporting her doubts about her team and sways her in a new direction. Not much is known about Tedros' past, as no one can seem to get an answer after a background check, but we do learn a bit about his past through Isaac when Leia inquires about him throughout the night. He seems to find people who are looking to change their life and takes advantage of their desperation, such as when he approached Isaac while he was singing in church. church. The night culminates with Tedros directing Jocelyn to perform, even in an intimate setting, to which she obliges, and they eventually hook up. Finally feeling seen and appreciated during a vulnerable moment in her life, Jocelyn agrees to let Tedros move in so that they can continue to produce new music together. Will this lead to greener pastures, or will her self-sabotage lead to her music career's demise? Let me know what you think in the comments below. To answer that question, we have to look at whether or not Jocelyn's music has improved since collaborating with Tedros and inviting him into her life. Immediately at the top of the episode, her sound seems to have gotten worse. I mean, I let out an audible laugh when she played the first few seconds of the world-class Sinner remix, but it is crucial to note that the song is incredibly rough and hasn't been mixed properly. Throughout the episode, we see hints of how the song is evolving by becoming darker, grittier, and more primal, yet the pieces haven't come together in a satisfying way, which is the main struggle that Jocelyn has as she is feeling creatively stuck. Despite sensing an inherent darkness in Tedros, she convinces herself that he is the answer to all of her problems, as he is the only person that claims to understand her vision and support it. On the surface, this seems like an empty manipulation tactic to me, but the subtle changes to her sound already reminds me of Britney Spears' Blackout album. That era of Britney's career is marked by darker subject matter that plays into her real-life controversies and status as a sex symbol, which sounds remarkably similar to where we meet Jocelyn in the series, because it's explained to Talia that in addition to Jocelyn's mother passing and the photo leak, her boyfriend, heartthrob Rob, cheated on her, and she's fresh out of treatment. I have hopes that the light at the end of her journey will be better music, but not without traveling through all that darkness. And I'm curious to know what you all think, but could Dyanne's musical debut ultimately feel manufactured and prove Jocelyn's creative instincts right? Because it seems to me as though the music industry is portrayed in the series as not caring about the artistic craft, and that the public will listen to anything and everything that is promoted as popular or important by the record label. I like to think that the ending, when Jocelyn is moved by Chloe's singing, proves that Tedros could eventually pull something out from her soul that will help Jocelyn achieve her goal, which is to make music that is bigger and more important than her or this current moment in time. But the look on Leia's face screams that we are in for a wild ride filled with nothing but trouble. I'm scared for her because it doesn't look like Tedros will let anything stop him. Overall, I thought the second episode of The Idol raised more questions than it answered, but to be honest, that makes me even more curious to see how Jocelyn's story plays out. I truly think it will end in one of two ways. Either Jocelyn will become the artist she has always dreamt of, or she will continue this journey of self-sabotage until the end of her career and maybe even her life. As for Dyanne, I would venture out and say she isn't the real villain in the series, and that she is just looking for her opportunity like anyone else who's starting out in the industry. The person who we obviously can't trust and will do more harm than good is Tedros, and I'd even say Jocelyn's music management team falls into that same category. Staying with her record label or joining a cult are essentially the same at this point in the series, so we'll just have to keep an eye and an ear out for which direction creates better art. Either way, it's a gut-wrenching story to follow, and one can only hope that this turns out well for our little idol. That's all for episode 2 of The Idol. Let me know your thoughts and theories below. Don't forget to subscribe. Thanks for watching.